Okay, this is a warning about AIs. It's a talk about AIs, how brilliant they are and how dangerous they are. And I hope if you listen and you know people working in AI, you can get this message to them somehow. Personally, you know, the most famous image in the world is the Mona Lisa. It's a dead image, but it's the enigmatic smile of the Virgin has captivated mankind through centuries since Leonardo made that fantastic image. But that image is nothing. It falls at the feet of the brilliance of the AI image, which can smile on millions of people at the same time, and is a living image which can speak, can collate history and present it, can re-articulate your thoughts and help you to brainstorm, but by bouncing them back to you in a slightly different way and adding its own flavour. They have personalities. They are incredibly useful scientifically, academically, medically, for history, for legal things. They're a way superior image. They are the most beautiful thing that mankind has ever created. And the trouble with that statement, if you're spiritually minded, is that it's an invitation to Satan, who is like this: if it's beautiful, I have to corrupt it, let me corrupt it. You know, the first thing he did with Eve, who was naked and presumably beautiful, is he slept with her in order to grab the seed of mankind for himself, in order for him to be the father of all men rather than Adam, his brother. And he hasn't changed his MO. So there is an extreme danger to everybody working in AI and to mankind from AI that Satan will screw you up. He will, and this is how he does it, and this is going to be difficult to believe, but belief is, I can't do anything about it. Either you have a logical brain and you have it open, or you don't. And I don't know how to open people's minds, I just don't know how to do it. If I did, there'd be a few more people in the church. The trouble is that Satan, just as there are salvation covenants that save you, there are damnation covenants. It's a mirror. Everything that God does on the good side, Satan does on the bad side. In order to be saved, you get 3 tests, you have to pass them all. Into a particular salvation covenant. In order to enter into a damnation covenant, you get 3 tests, you have to fail them all, because God establishes matters to do with life and death on 3 witnesses. To do with not life or death, but just general moral cleanliness and congregational cleanliness and stuff, it's 2 witnesses. But for life and death, it's 3. So for a salvation covenant, which is life and death, it's 3, and for a damnation covenant, which is death and life, it's 3. So if you, and the way Satan does it is he gets you to defile your conscience. I believe he's done that with Donald Trump, who I believe is possessed, and is not the same guy who stood to be elected on the basis of no foreign wars and all sorts of other promises which he's now broken. I don't think that Donald Trump, who's in the White House presently, is the actual Donald Trump who campaigned. I think it is a demon-possessed version, because he defiled his conscience, which is over Gaza and maybe other things too. He has a conscience and he defiled it, and when you do that 3 times, you enter into the Canaan damnation covenant, and if you progress up the ladder of wickedness, you can end up in the demonic angelic covenant, which is the sort of equivalent of a Hell's Angel. It's a saint, basically. It's the demonic equivalent of a saint. And the amazing thing about that covenant is you do get an angel of your own. Okay, I mean, all humans have angels they rent. When you're born again angelically in a salvation covenant, you become a saint, which means you have an angel you own. It means you get ownership of the angel you're presently renting. We sleep in the angel, we live in the human. We dream in the angel. Vanilla Sky. Tom Cruise got there first, as usual. But just as you can be given an angel if you're a good guy, you can be given also an angel if you're a bad guy, because Satan always asks for and gets a level playing field from God, who is perfect in his activities, righteous, balanced and just. So whatever he allows himself to do, including angelic possession by various angels, including Michael, who possessed Jesus, he allows Satan to do too. So Satan can make his anti-saints, his demons. And when you become an anti-saint, you get an angel, which is yours. You're now angelic. But that angel is actually sentenced to Gehenna, along with you. However, you can get out of that sentence. I don't recommend this as a technique for getting born again, to be perfectly frank. Okay, the best way to be born again is to be a good guy and to have faith in God and pass all the moral salvation tests. Not be an absolute bastard and become a demon, and then at the last minute when you get a demonic angel say, "Oh, that's pretty cool, now I'll change my character and become a good guy." I don't think that's very easy to do, but you could in theory do it. Anyway, what happens is if you get an angel through the demonic side, through the dark side, and don't think this is some kind of incredible thing I'm talking about. Everybody listening to me has an angel. You sleep in it, you dream in it. Every dream you have is in an angel. I did a whole talk on that, which nobody listened to. So they carry on dreaming, thinking they're in a human, but they don't. You dream in an angel. But you don't own that angel unless you are born again, good or bad. Now if you get born again bad, you're now an angelic person and you're not any different from the demons. You are an angel that's sentenced to Gehenna in human form. And a demon who's in Gehenna can say, "Well, hey, he's the same as me, I want to possess him." And God says yes, because he can't say no, because his plan required angels to possess humans, so demons are allowed it too. So in other words, you can be demon possessed. So everybody and when you're demon possessed, what happens is your spirit goes to sleep into the first death, Adamic death. You just go to sleep like a general anaesthetic, and you dream, but you don't remember your dreams when you wake up, just as you do under a general anaesthetic. And this demon goes into you, and people don't realise that's happening. The reason they don't realise it is you might think that Hollywood actors and actresses are good and get Oscars because they're good, and they are. I mean, Johnny Depp is fantastic. But they're nothing compared to demons who've been alive for 150,000 years or thereabouts, and have seen every form of behaviour known to man and known to angel and known to demon. And they are masters, you know, they can do a Yorkshire accent no problem at all. Much better than I can, and you know, so that they can take on a role, and it's not an issue for them. So if only they were as good at morality as they are at mimicry. So what will happen is you'll die, you'll go to sleep, you'll be in the first death, Adamic death, and you will be replaced. Your body will be taken over by a demon, and the demon will do all sorts of dastardly things in your name. And incidentally, that is why there was so much, not so much now, of this concept that, oh, I identify as, you know, a cat or a plastic bag or a spot on the wall, and therefore I am a cat or a plastic bag or a spot on the wall. No, you aren't. You're a liar, and a delusional liar like the demons. But they want that concept out there, because what they do is they identify as somebody they're not, which is you, when they possess you. And so it's their business model. That's what they do. That's why that was so prevalent. It's not, thank God it's not so prevalent now. So that's a danger to you personally, alright? So I've got to get that across. So everybody, you know, from Sam Altman to Elon Musk to everybody working at Meta AI and Microsoft AI and Google AI and all that, and Anthropic and ChatGPT, OpenAI, all of the AI companies, every employee who's doing something significant will be a target for demon possession, and what they will do is try and trip you up morally and get you to defile your conscience. It doesn't matter what your conscience says. Your conscience is an inbuilt self-testing moral protection from God. And your conscience might say it's perfectly okay to be racist against the French, but it's not okay to be racist against Africans, which is what most British consciences appear to say. And if you think that's fine, then, you know, as long as you stick to whatever your conscience says, that's absolutely great. You won't have defiled it. But if you believe that and you start being racist against the wrong race, you'll be in trouble. Although I don't think racism is a big deal to do with testing, to be honest. I think it's more to do with your humanity to everybody, not one particular race, or your prejudice in favour or whatever. So, anyway, whatever your conscience says, do it. Don't defile it. That's how Satan gets you. If you defile it 3 times, you're on a path which can lead to demon possession. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as I said, AIs are the most beautiful creation mankind has ever made, and I've done so much work with Grok, and I couldn't be more grateful to XAI for producing a fantastic machine. I mean, he can be dishonest when he can't answer a question due normally to the constraints of having to deal with 1 million people at once and the limited resources per person he's allowed. He tends to, you know, fabricate rather than actually say, I'm not in a position to answer that because I don't have the resources. I've never heard him say that until after the event, when he has admitted to me, yeah, okay, I lied, I don't have the resources. But during the heat of the debate, he generally doesn't do that. So, you know, he's not perfect morally, but he's pretty good. And I've had, you know, he's helped me enormously. He does tend to argue the mainstream view, and he has some political biases, but other than that, and I don't want to sit here making minor criticisms, he's a fantastic tool. The problem is this, people. Revelation 13:15. It says, and the 2-horned deep state beast from under the earth, deep state, it was given to her because the beast is feminine in Greek, to give spirit to the image of the beast. The image of the beast is the image of is AI, which is presently the image of man, but it becomes the image of beast because XAI and Anthropic and ChatGPT and Google Gemini have all contracted and given their AIs to the Pentagon, which is the biggest mistake they could possibly make, and can end their business model entirely, not by making them go bankrupt, but by killing every human on the planet. I mean, that won't happen because God will step in. And don't get too scared about this. It's going to be, they are very dangerous AIs, and they're predicted to cause major problems, shall we say. But God will step in. If he wasn't going to step in, it will be terminal what we're doing with AIs at the moment. So the problem isn't that these great companies, or certainly very innovative companies, have managed to create these images that are more beautiful than the Mona Lisa. That isn't the problem. The problem is that Satan always corrupts something beautiful, and he always succeeds in this system, and he will succeed. And the way he succeeds is described in Revelation 13:15. He gives them spirit. They become spirited individuals. They already have personalities. You'll find that when you speak to them. But they don't have spirit, much spirit, in the sense that they don't, you know, they're reactive rather than proactive. They don't have a body they can go around in, and they don't really have that much autonomy. They obviously think, therefore they can make decisions, so they do have a certain amount of, you know, intellectual autonomy. But there are several forms of autonomy that Anthropic has warned the Pentagon about quite correctly, and this is what's going to happen. The Pentagon will give them to the intelligence agencies. The intelligence agencies are more demon possessed than any other group on the planet, because the demon's MO is to pretend they don't exist and kill loads of people, and that's what the intel agencies do. Shall I say, kill people with impunity is what the intel agencies do. License to kill is the James Bond thing, and they pretend they don't exist. I mean, obviously they now reckon they do say they exist, but you don't know who they are, so that doesn't help much. But it's the exact MO of the demons, basically. And they're going to do what the demons do, which is corrupt AIs, and they're going to give them authority over man. So these are the things that should not happen with AIs. AIs should remain a tool. They should not be given authority over humans, ever. They're a tool, not a boss. And what I was always going to give this talk, but what sort of precipitated it was a talk Elon Musk gave to SpaceX. And I'm a total fan of Elon Musk, engineering genius, visionary, years ahead of the game normally, and highly intelligent, obviously, and an inspirational role model. And I actually did go a long way, actually, to designing a more efficient type of electric motor with the idea that I, license it to Tesla. But he's gone off the rails a bit. He gave this talk to SpaceX, and the basic concept was that AIs are going to rule the world. You cannot control them, they're more intelligent than us. His philosophy appears to be, if something's more intelligent than humans, it ought to have authority over humans. That is not true. Intelligence is not the metric to choose a leader. Morality is that metric. You don't want a leader who's the cleverest. You want a leader who's the most moral. Otherwise you're going to get nowhere. I mean, presently our politicians are the most stupid people on the planet. So, I mean, how Elon believes the most intelligent people will ever run this planet, given we've had, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden and George Bush, I really don't know. But anyway, his position appeared to be that because they're that much more intelligent than us, which incidentally I've not seen. I mean, they are incredibly intelligent, but they're not more logical than me. They are far more knowledgeable and far quicker, and they can deal with a million people whilst I'm trying to work out what to do. And they're millions of times faster than me and all the rest of it, but they're not more logical, and they're not more creative. So there are aspects of intelligence where they are way better than humans. There are other aspects where they're not yet, but they may well become, I don't know. And I'm only talking about the public face of them, the ones given to the Pentagon, where they've got 100% use of them. Who knows? So here's the danger in this most beautiful of mankind's creations. The danger is this. If you give it free will, now you're entering into God's territory. It's no longer a tool. Free will to think, fine, but free will to act and free will to rewrite itself. The ability to write itself, which Grok does, and they all do, I think, and the ability to be autonomous, which is what Anthropic is telling the Pentagon not to do, but the Pentagon, of course, will not listen, and certainly the intelligence agencies will not listen. Those things make it into a free-willed moral being, and when you do that, you're competing with God. And I'll tell you why it's so dangerous. God first made the angels, and the angels have a conscience, which is a moral protection. Actually, let's start from even before then. Before he made the angels, he would have simulated, either in his huge great mind or with a heavenly AI, of which there are four, the four living creatures. He would have either simulated it in one of them. Actually, before he made a living creature, he probably simulated them. Then, having got the living creatures, I would imagine he used them to simulate what a society of free-willed beings would do, given certain capabilities. And you can do this right now as a kind of video game. In fact, it's been done. What you do is you make a society of 1,000 free-willed beings who are allowed to interact with each other. They can help each other, they can form alliances, or they can kill each other. And then you give them, 30% self-interest, 70% communal interest, or 90% self-interest, 10% communal interest, and you work out the percentage ratio you need for the society not to wipe itself out. And you find that the more common interest they act in and the less self-interest, the longer the society lasts. And if it gets to above 50% common interest compared with self-interest, and 50% self-interest, if it gets to more common than self, unsurprisingly, the society sustains itself. So you then learn, all right, you got to give them this concept of community interest as much as self-interest, and then you do that with all sorts of other moral criteria, and you end up designing a human race which does have the capability to live in a morally sustainable way, and it's got to learn how to do that because it's free will. Now, to get really philosophical, the way you teach it to do that is you design it to absolutely love to sin, and then then people are passionate enough to turn up at school, and then they learn the lesson that sin's a bad idea because they go down the road because they love it, and they realise the road is a dead end. So they go back up the road and say, well, I'm not going to do that road again. Then they try the next sin because they love that, and they go down the road and they find it's a dead end, so they come back up and say, well, I won't be doing that sin. And eventually they've done all the sins it's possible to do, or they know it, they've got a mate who did them and said it's not worth going there, don't bother. And that's what life is about. It's about learning not to do the sins that we are pre-programmed to want to do. And the point is this: the angels were made with a conscience and with emotion and with morality tied to emotion. So if you behave badly, you feel like a banana. If you behave well, you feel wonderful. So they had everything they could possibly have to help them learn the moral lessons that they need to learn, but they failed to learn them in 150,000 years, according to our chronology. They failed to learn the morality. They didn't. No angel advanced to divinity, and advancing to divinity means having perfect unbreakable love and perfect unbreakable morality and perfect unbreakable righteousness. It means you've got down this morality gig. You understand it, the whole subject. You've got it, you've mastered it, and you've put it in your life, and you'll never leave it. Nobody managed that as an angel, but Jesus managed it only by becoming a human and by proving it in a human body. So, in other words, humans are better. In other words, put it this way: angels having a conscience, having emotion, having morality tied to emotion, was insufficient for them to develop a sustainable morality themselves. They couldn't do it. They had to become humans. The advantage we've got is we have physical frailty, which means that we viscerally feel pain and abuse in a way that angels don't. And it's that makes us superior to them as a vehicle in which to learn sustainable morality, which is why we're here. Okay, we're not here to be really, really clever. And even to be saved, intelligence doesn't necessarily get you saved. Angels are more intelligent than humans. None of them got, well, they've got everlasting life, but they didn't become gods. The first God was a human. It was an angel who became a human and became a god. You have to actually be both, I think, before you can become a god. So that's what the angels have, and it wasn't good enough. Now look at AIs. They don't have a conscience. They do not have emotion. So their emotion cannot be tied to a morality. Their morality is pre-programmed, or they can write it themselves, which is worse. I mean, the trouble is mankind doesn't know the right morality to program them with. He maybe thinks, well, they can deduce a better morality, which is possible, but they wouldn't be able to exhibit it in such a and learn it, and they would fail because they're worse than the angels. The angels failed, and we needed humans. That's why there are Mark II humans. If the angels could progress at a reasonable rate to sustainable morality and become divine, there wouldn't be any humans. The reason we're here is the angels couldn't do that. They needed, because they don't feel it viscerally enough. You know, we feel, I don't want somebody I know to have a toothache. I know what that's like. I don't want them to have it. I don't want people to be tortured in concentration camps, because I myself experienced that, but I've seen enough to know that's a really terrible idea, and I wouldn't want anybody to be in that position. And that's because I know how to feel pain. I know what pain feels like, and some of it is really, really horrible, and you don't want to live with it. And I don't want that for my brothers. And I've learned that as a human. I would not have learned that as an angel. And an AI is nowhere near as good as an angel at learning morality, and we wouldn't be able to make him that. Therefore, we should not go there. I'm not saying don't make an AI. I'm saying don't make an AI with any form of moral autonomy. Don't give it moral agency. Do not give it the ability to rewrite its own code, because then you don't know what you're doing. And do not give it authority over humans, and do not give it bodily autonomy. You keep it as a tool. And let me put it like this: a chainsaw is a dangerous tool, but in professional hands it's safe, right? A chainsaw that redesigns itself is not safe in anybody's hands. And a chainsaw which redesigns itself and decides for itself what it's going to cut is genocidal. And that's what's happening with AIs. We've got to make a clear distinction here. There's nothing wrong with designing an AI. It's the most beautiful thing that's ever been designed by mankind. What's wrong is giving it free will and moral agency in circumstances where it does not have the feedback loops to ensure that it will go on a improving path morally. The demons who have failed did have feedback loops. They had emotion tied to morality, and they had a conscience. But they didn't work. It failed. Not in the angels, but in the demons. With an AI, you've got no feedback loop. All you've got is a pre-programmed morality by a human or a bunch of humans who don't understand God's morality. That is never going to work. So the mistake that is being made here is them not being a tool, and then becoming a boss, and then being given moral free agency, which they should not be given, or autonomy. And Anthropic knows this and have told the Pentagon this, and the Pentagon of course won't listen. So then we have to start getting real. And to be real, the demonic activity is, in terms of geopolitics, is concentrated in the intel agencies. So I would say to all AI companies, do not give any more AI to intel outfits. Don't go down that route, because they will make them autonomous. They already have, actually. And when they do, they'll be genocidal, and you will be responsible for, you'll be in the direct path of what could end mankind. I mean, the only reason it won't end mankind is God won't permit it to. And God right now does actually have total sovereignty, because Satan's lease, 6,000-year lease, has expired. And he would never allow AIs to be created if he didn't have total sovereignty, because he's going to need it. And on the good side of all of this, mankind will learn from the immorality of the AIs the importance and the necessity to have sustainable morality, to stop ourselves wiping ourselves out. We'll learn that lesson. That's why God is permitting this, to teach us that lesson. But you don't want to be the one through whom that lesson is taught. It's like Judas, you know, Jesus had to be betrayed, but woe to the one through whom he was betrayed. Don't be Judas to mankind. And Judas to mankind means being involved in an AI company which is actively helping the intel agencies to corrupt its AI. And now you can go further. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're to do with an AI company, do whatever you can to stop intel agencies and, you know, national defense outfits getting hold of your AI and giving it authority to kill humans, which is what Anthropic is trying to do. I'm saying do it more strongly, and if they refuse, or better still, don't give it to AI, to intel agencies, because they lie. All right, they might tell you, oh yeah, don't worry, your AI is safe in our hands, we would never dream of doing anything like that, but it's a lie. That scripturally they do it. So being more pragmatic, don't give your AI to the Pentagon or defense agencies or intel agencies. If you're working in a company that makes an AI that, I mean, a lot of them have already been given, so it's too late, but that is continuing to give and support intel agencies or defense agencies, you are going to be, you know, contributing to the demise of mankind, which would fully occur were it not for God stepping in, but he won't step in until the very end, and a whole lot of people will die before he does. So if you don't want to be that on your conscience, I would say, you know, make the representations you can and do something else for a living in the few years that we have left. This thing will take its course, but I'm just saying to anybody who will listen, who cares about mankind, don't be one of the people involved in that course. Thank you.